Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana.
And I'm your host, May.
And today we have a very special guest with us, the one and only Hayden Williams. Hayden has been practicing yoga since 2014. He is a born and raised Texan, still living in Dallas. And a fun fact about him is that in another life, he would be a ski bum. So welcome, Hayden. Thanks for being here. How are
Thank
you?
you. Doing good. Doing good. Normal day in Texas right now. Yeah, for a wannabe ski bum. But yeah, everything's going good.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to have you here. Just because I can't not say it. Hayden, I know Hayden because he is my bestest friend in the entire world's fiance, and they're getting married December 7th of this year, which is 2024. So shout out Tyler. We love you. Thank you for letting me steal Hayden away. And I have to also mention, if there's any Lizzie McGuire fans out there, May, are you too old for Lizzie McGuire? And I'll never
I
ask.
think I think
You
I
saw that
just
question coming.
I just aged out of Lizzie McGuire. If you didn't say it, I was gonna say it.
I was like,
I'm
I'm never
older than Montana, just so everyone knows. I'm a lot older.
and wiser.
Well, I don't know about that.
So
Wouldn't
anyway,
have known.
they're on Lizzie McGuire. Lizzie McGuire was, one of the best shows if you were a little kid in the early 2000s. And she had the biggest crush, and his name was Ethan Kraft. And she was obsessed with Ethan Kraft. And he was like, just, the it man. And that is the way that I describe Hayden Williams. And the day that Tyler called me years ago and was like, Montana, guess who I just hooked up with? Sorry, Tyler, threw you under the bus. And I'm like, I immediately was like, Hayden Williams. And she's like, yes. And I was like, oh my God. So Tyler and Hayden are getting married. And if you understand that reference, you understand what a big deal it is for me and Tyler. And I remember too, the first time I told Hayden that, I was like, Tyler was obsessed with you since we were in middle school. She's loved you forever. And he's
Oh
like,
God, you're that friend.
he's like, no. I always loved her. Like, I always liked her. And they even went to college together too. They went to OU. And it's just divine, truly. Like, God wouldn't, the universe, whatever you want to say, wouldn't have it any other way. That they just were friends until they were mature enough and ready to like actually start a relationship, because now they're going to get married. And I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yeah, dated for plenty long too after that, but we definitely knew each other long enough, and it kind of cracks me and everybody that knew us all up quite a bit. We're a hot thing one and a hot thing two in high school, and we were just like excited to hang out with y'all, and then excited to know her whenever we were in college, but didn't really run around in the same crowd. And yeah, it's perfect timing. Time kind of fixes everything for you.
So wait, you had a crush on her the whole time that she had a crush on you?
Yeah, and we were dating other people and stuff like that, but there was never a time where we weren't, flirting, at pre-games or at the bars in college even. And, our significant others at the time did not like, you know, each me or Tyler. So it was a long story, but yeah. And then she was coming back from PA school whenever I was coming back from my first job in Tulsa. And then, back to Dallas. So again, it just like, time kind of just collapsed us both. So it was perfect. Yeah. And then started dating here. COVID happened. It was like, too natural to really, to rush or anything like that. But we were just totally happy in the moment. So it was fun. And we got engaged in June in Austin. Didn't go too far from home for that, but surprised her. And then yeah, moved into our house a couple of months ago, so we got to do the holidays here, and we're loving it even more than ever. So it makes a lot of sense now.
The weekend you guys got engaged, it was funny because I was with Montana like the day before, and she was frantically panicking, trying to get all of her work shifts covered so she could surprise fly down to Austin to be. And she gave me the whole backstory about the crushes and the long time chasing of one another, and it was just sounded like so romantic. So now to be able to actually like put some faces to that story, we're sitting at a baseball game and she's like, oh my God, my friend's getting engaged and I have to go. And she gave me the whole, like, she was really like that. She was that girl. She had her hands in the air. She's like, So
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't, we were at a baseball game, but it was literally because I was able to teach, I got to teach yoga at PNC Park, which is where the Pirates play in Pittsburgh that day, which was like an opportunity and experience of a lifetime. And the whole time and it was me and two other teachers. So it was three of us. So I only taught about 20 minutes. It wasn't a whole class, but the entire time that I was doing it, I was so not present and I was not in the moment. And I was just like, how am I going to get to Austin? How am I going to get to Austin? And then another like voice in my head would be like, Montana, you're literally on a microphone at PNC Park for 500 people. Be here now. And I was like, Austin, Austin, Austin. So that,
Yeah.
that was definitely,
you were swept up in your own Lizzie McGuire storyline.
Yes, I
I
was.
know it hurt me to even try to get her there because I was like, Tyler's gonna cry 2 times, whatever she might cry if Montana, pops out of the bushes. But so if I can get her here, we will. And so was her dad. I mean, her dad was even trying, but she's in the other room napping right now, so we don't have to spend too much time on her. But yeah,
I
yeah, she took
texted,
my other video spot. So on our couch.
Yeah, we don't have to keep going on and on about Tyler, but I could talk about Tyler for days. So, even this morning, well, when I was home for Christmas, I got to go see their home, which is beautiful, in the Lakewood area in Dallas. And I can't remember what was exactly happening in the moment, but I think we were in their bedroom, like getting ready. And Tyler and I've grown up together. So like I've been in her bedroom getting ready, whether it was her childhood bedroom or any of her apartments or in college or PA school or whatever. That's what you do with best friends. And Hayden like knocked on the door because he had to get something. And I was like, this is weird. You've never shared a room with a boy before. Like, what's going on? And even this morning when I texted Hayden just to like make sure everything was good for our conversation today, it was so early. Denim got me up so early. It was like 3:45 or 4:30 or something. And I texted and I was like, it's so funny to think that you're sleeping right now right next to Tyler.
You're so weird.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, yeah, you weirdo. We were like trying to wake up in like an
He
hour
like
or two
woke up
later,
to
and I
that
was like,
text message.
yeah, I
with
was
the
like, why the
purple
hell did I
devil.
have a text message from Montana? But yeah, that was us. I mean, it's really weird too because like every time we were running around with y'all, you guys were probably like sleeping over at each other's house or something like that. Like you guys were inseparable. And so anyway, me and her have kind of almost missed out on the Montana like the whole time that we've been dating because you guys have been up in Pittsburgh. So whenever we get to see you guys, it's like shit, all is whole. But yeah,
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 it always
especially
feels like we're making up for lost time, even though like
yeah,
no time, if it also feels like no time has passed.
yeah, yep, definitely.
So can you give us, on that note, a little background about you and your story and where you come from, beyond the incredible Tyler Spearman?
Yeah, sure. I guess Dallas kid, like you said, born and raised. Kind of got some, old school roots in Texas, and then dad's from California. We grew up in Dallas. I went to a all boys high school, and Tyler went to that all girls high school known as Ursuline. I went to Jesuit. Then we went to Oklahoma. I got a petroleum engineering degree, and I'm back in Dallas working for an oil and gas company. And yeah, just kind of getting to that 30-year-old age and trying to make sure that I'm still an athlete and keep up with myself and do be 100% as good as I can be for Tyler because she's always busting her butt too, like at work and health and everything else. And so that's just a little bit about me. But yeah, I don't know how much of their backstory I've got. Nothing too exciting, I guess.
That's perfect. So
Yeah.
what originally led you? You said you started yoga in 2014. So what originally led you to step into your first yoga class experience?
I That's tough to say. I mean, I think like we had whenever we were in college, we had some friends that were on sports teams that played for OU, baseball and football and so on. And I mean, like we would run into them at different places. Me and my friends, or one or two of us anyway, were really into fitness as well. Like through college, it was tough. Obviously, our diets, our sleep, and all kinds of other stuff was just like terrible, absolutely terrible. but we would make time to go to the gym every day, whether it was just detox or, just hanging out. And, we'd run into some of those athletes and they were saying that, yeah, we were, we're sore as shit after a game or after whatever we're doing, all of our workouts during the week in the off season. And on Wednesdays, there's this yoga class. It's hot yoga. It's taught by this chick who's a badass, and she, it's off campus a little ways, but she, it's kind of no BS. Like we're gonna, she'll tell you how to actively stretch. You're not just gonna bend down, and touch your toes, like and goose fraba. You're gonna totally just be into it the entire time, and she's gonna work you. And so me and my buddy were like, yeah, I mean, like, sounds pretty good. Like, we'll just go rent a mat, see what it's like. And they were right. I mean, like, they were like, she took one look at us and was like, oh, yeah, y'all are in for a treat, like a humbling treat. And it was exactly that. Like, she would, she kind of busted our balls, frankly. And she was like, if you're an athlete, you'd be activating that muscle right now. And I'd be like, that's the last thing on my mind, because I'm like panting. I'm trying to do 100 other things with my balance and blah, blah, blah. But it humbled you. And then towards the end of class, she's like, all right, and I come back to where, what all you've picked up from today and, grasp all that. Like, that's all growth. You don't really need, you don't need to hit a new PR. You don't need to do all this other stuff in the gym. You're growing in other ways. And like, that was kind of like a little bit, I guess it hit home back then. But yeah, there was a huge just sweat detox and then like centering aspect to it, because everything else that we were doing was like, get as much in as we can in the 30-40 minutes that we're at the gym, and then get out of there, go back, hang out with the guys. And like, this is like a devoted hour to do nothing but focus on what you should be focused on, or else you're not really taking as much away from it as you could be with the opportunity. It's almost like you're paying to be in the class, and it's wasted opportunity almost, like if you don't make the most of it and take yourself seriously, or take the experience seriously. So I don't know, that was the first type of exercise, or whatever you want to call it, that I had like that. So it's kind of fun, I guess.
In your memory of that first class, what was the most humbling part of it? Was it like the stillness or the balancing, or what do you remember that stands out to you that was like the most humbling part of you going into that space for that hour?
Man, that's really a good question. I would probably say the stillness at the end, because like, people, it sounds, I think to guys, or if you take yourself too seriously, I'm probably guilty of that. Like, it's tough to sit there and just lay on your mat. And whenever you in a hot yoga class, like I said, she was making us work. We were, everything on my body was tingling by the end of that class. And I was just like, this laying here like this is not easy at all. And I was itching sweat out of my eyes. I was, trying to get my back flat on the mat. And I was like, and she's like, quit, basically like, quit, fidgeting around and just like be there, or just hang out. And like, all those other sensations are going to go away. Don't worry. And, it definitely translates to bigger ideas, after you've been going for a little while. But that was probably the most humbling part. That, and trying to hold like Warrior 2 for, I don't even know how long it was at the time. We were going back and forth and doing all this other stuff. I was like, I can squat like a decent amount, but I cannot hold my freaking knee over my toe. This is pretty pathetic. But yeah.
It's a different thing. I think when you're standing outside of a person standing in Warrior 2, you're looking at them, you're like, they're not doing much. Like, what's really happening here? And then the person is standing in Warrior 2 for over a minute, and you're like, holy shit, this is a lot. And I think that's the main part of yoga, is that like, people come in, they're like, and it's funny because the way you described that teacher cracked me up, how she was like, I'm going to whip you into shape, quit fidgeting, get your shit together. And she was very like, not rough on you guys, but just the way she knew you were coming in, probably thinking it wasn't going to humble you, and she knew it was. And that's always funny, because I think a lot of the time the vibe I get when men come into yoga for the first time is they think they're there for a cute little stretch, and then they're quickly reminded that that's not what it is at all. So it's just funny.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would have gone in there. I totally agree with all that. I think I think in addition, I probably went in there thinking, oh, like, I'm already in the top however, whatever percentile of the people in this room in terms of fitness or whatever you want to call it. Like, I don't know what I'm gauging myself on, but why would this be all that much harder? And then it's an entirely different type of drive. We also, guys walk in with the big chest and think like, oh, it's dark in here, but I'm gonna nail this and do my thing. And like within the first 20 minutes of, or you're already I'm yeah, sweating all over my mat, and I'm like, nobody else in here seems to be as stressed out as I am. And anyway, there's people, bodies are different, but at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, that's where she was trying to center us. Like, you know, you're worried about all this other stuff. You're worried about your partner next to you, who, if you're swaying too much, if you're sweating too much or whatever, but like nobody gives a shit about that. You're just focused on you. So that's kind of where she was like, lock in. You're here for the work. So it was interesting.
You said that you were consistently going on Wednesday nights. Is that right?
Actually like Wednesday, first thing in the morning. It was
Oh,
like
first
6
thing.
a.m.
Oh,
And
wow.
we didn't have like, I think it was 6 a.m. It might have been 7. But in college, that's
That's early.
freaking early.
Mhm.
But that was the one that the reason that we went there the first time was because that was when all the coaching staff of the baseball team went. And they would some of the players would join in. The coaches would just kind of like, like tease them like, you won't show, and occasionally they would, but it was funny because the entire coaching staff in there was in there getting the same, like, kind of verbal just abuse that we were. And we were just like, if these guys can show up for this stuff, then I want to, because I'm sure 90% of the classes there probably are 90% female. So it's like, at least we got kind of our first taste of it was that, yeah, there's a lot of people out here like us just looking for something similar. So
Do you think that like competitive, that intentional competitive push from the other guys in the space or the baseball coaches was part of what like motivated you to continue showing up? Because it's like, this is so hard. This is so humbling. I feel stressed out. I look weird. I don't know what I'm doing. So like, what about it made you be like, okay, but I'm going to keep coming?
I think it's almost like two-part, because like I was talking to another guy about this the other day, just a brother, one of my best friends, but like um I think fitness or just well-being is like all about the group that you have around you. So I mean, call it culty or whatever you want. There's a whole bunch of different versions of what people would call fitness or well-being, a lot of trendy stuff. But if you don't have somebody at least like pulling you into that, nobody picks up a hobby of jogging. Well, very few people, I would say, probably pick up a hobby of marathon running by themselves,
Mhm.
or jogging by themselves. Like they probably started running with a friend, or they probably started going to the gym with a friend. I mean, obviously, I did CrossFit for a long time. Like there's just something about being with your group of guys and everybody, pumping each other up, and kind of living a similar, or trying to get to a similar point in a lifestyle. The other thing I think all the guys did was probably um, show, break down the stigma that we were just there to stretch. Because like if we were just there to stretch, these guys have the facilities to do that at the university. Like they wouldn't be dragging their butts over there at 6 o'clock in the morning to do that. And so that proved to me that it was worth it, and that it wasn't anything that would ever be sissy or whatever to be doing yoga as a 18, 19-year-old male in college. Like it just, not many of my guy friends were were gonna come along for that at the time, but it was a lot of work. So
Did you
yeah.
keep consistent throughout the entire time you were at OU?
No, I probably went like, on average every other week. And I
That's
really, yeah, I mean, I wasn't, we were definitely working out a lot otherwise. And um, I think I've always liked it the most, like supplemental to whatever other fitness I'm doing. Um, and I think it helps just keep you well rounded. Um, but I've never been somebody who goes like 2 or 3 times a week. I think, a couple times a week would be definitely on my side for me. And there's months where I don't go. I miss it for sure or notice it. So it's, yeah, that's probably in college. I bet it was rarely more than once every other week. If I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's also worth, I feel like worth mentioning too, that like the consistency is consistency and momentum is momentum, regardless of how often that consistency lands, right? So like even if, and it's always going to ebb and flow. So what's it called? Minimal effective dose, right? We've talked about that kind of on this podcast, where it's like some people, it might work for them where they really do want to, whatever sort of fitness it is, or whatever practice or tool it is from their toolbox, like, oh, I want to do this every morning, or I want to do this 2 times a week, or I want to do this every other week, or I want to do this once a month. Like, but any sort of consistency is still valuable and beneficial, I totally think. So after school, did you go back to Dallas or did you go to Tulsa first? I'm actually not sure.
I graduated in December and went straight to work in Tulsa. And that was in 2016. And yeah, so pretty much went straight there. The oil and gas that was my major. So it was in a pretty tough spot. And the company that I was with there, yeah, gave me a job and I went straight there. We didn't have any grace period. So
Was there
yeah,
yoga in Tulsa?
there was a really cool yoga studio called Salt. And I mean, yeah, didn't take much explaining. They definitely made you sweat, and I had some really good teachers there too. So I was definitely on a little bit more of an island in Tulsa. I had some friends for sure that like grew up there and moved back there, but you know, only one or two that would occasionally come to the gym with me would not really go to yoga with me. You know, not that I was really too worried about it at that point. I enjoyed it for my own reasons and was doing it. That was probably whenever it was most frequently a part of like my weekly routine, like once a week for a pretty good stint there. I had a yeah, unlimited membership at Salt, so would take advantage of that a lot.
So aside from the physical benefits of practicing yoga, when did you start to realize how beneficial it is for you mentally as well? Did you have like an aha moment where you realized that whatever your yoga practice was doing for you was beyond the physical?
I don't know if there really was like a time it where I noticed some kind of a translation into personal life. I think that um, you know it was kind of a like if there was a really stressful week or stressful time period, like that was an hour long bit of therapy that would be the best thing, even if it wasn't the most physically exhausting. It was it was still kind of mentally exhausting. But then the whole yeah, I'm not totally sure. I think there have definitely been times like in just my professional life where I've gotten flustered by something that I couldn't handle right then and there. And it was just, I don't know if it was necessarily a yoga, uh, trait that came out, but I was like, this is not the way that I should be reacting to this. It was in private, most likely it wasn't a huge deal, but I was like, I'm going to go on about my night and so are they. And this is going to be just fine tomorrow. It's not, I shouldn't be letting this affect my well-being so much right now or my time with others or whatever the case might have been. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I don't, like I said, I don't know if it was yoga based, but it was, you know, definitely kind of along the same path, I would say.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, we could sit here and try to dissect like if yoga helped you recognize that or not. But for my own personal experience, like that, exactly what you just said, the way when I start reacting to things in a way that I don't like and in ways that I don't want to be reacting, that's like a direct indication that like, oh, I need to get on my mat. And I think it's important too to mention that like for me, that's the tool that I use from my toolbox to regulate my nervous system and to like get out of my head and really slow things down. But it doesn't always have to be like an hour yoga class, right? Like there's other tools in the toolbox that you can use. Maybe it's just like closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths, which you might have learned in a yoga space, right? Maybe,
Right.
yeah. So it's like the possibilities are endless, but in my heart, in my soul, I definitely believe that yoga definitely has some, at least some tiny, um, is the reason that we have, it gives us the space to, just sit back and like take a look at ourselves in a mirror and be like, this is ridiculous. I don't need to be acting this way or thinking this way. Like, it's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is kind of like it is weird that I probably make it, that mad is almost the reason that I'm enjoying myself. Like the hour that I spent there is the reason that I'm enjoying myself now after I leave. But it doesn't really have to be like, be just limited to that. It can you can find that kind of, I don't know, I guess relaxation or just comfort in a lot of other ways now. And I think um there's, they kind of describe yoga as playing. I mean, just a lot of teachers will, and like there's some aspects of what I'm doing, just like, I guess, other ways in my life where it's just like, yeah, I'm just playing. There's if I'm gonna put an hour aside for me, like it might be in the garage just tinkering with shit, or it might be throwing kettlebells around. It might be doing to-dos around the house. Like there's time to just play. You're never too old to just take that, that time for yourself. And I think that's a big thing that kind of came from yoga, like just quit worrying so much about so little. But you don't need a mat to really, do that. I think I don't know. I've definitely been wanting to get more into meditation and things like that for that same reason.
Yeah,
But
totally. I think
I don't
too,
know if that's the direction you're going.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never know the direction we're going, but that's the beauty. But I think that something that you touched on as well is like, and I keep referencing David May, who's one of my mentors, but it's because we just talked recently. And so I keep talking about him. But anywho, he mentions a lot of the time that like he's a yoga teacher and he'll say, you'll hear oftentimes in yoga, like, what's your intention? Think about your intention. Why are you here? And oftentimes people will feel like, oh God, what is it? Why am I here? Like, oh, it has to be this like profound, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say.
Prolific.
Yeah, that word.
Yeah.
Like earth-shattering intention and reason and why. And it's like, it can literally just be because I don't want to look at my phone for an hour. And this is the opportunity to do that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
going
you
to
wanted to
Right.
hide from your family for an hour. Yeah, you
yeah.
just
And
wanted to
that
get.
is so important and necessary and beneficial and healing. Like, it's so,
Yeah.
you could be like, my intention is to sweat. That's all I give a shit about today. Great. My intention is to just this is the way that I'm going to move my body today. So yeah, it doesn't have to be, I feel like the tiny things that might not seem profound are actually what add up to then create profound changes long term, in big ways. So
I
Yeah.
think
I totally agree.
everybody sets a lot of goals and they have high standards for themselves. And like you're an athlete, and athletes grow up with this idea of everything should have like a purpose, and I need to work harder every day to get better and get better. And sometimes we all forget in our own ways that you can sometimes just do things for the enjoyment of it. And that, like you said, there doesn't have to be a big reason why you set aside an hour to go play in the garage or to go outside and throw a friggin' football around. You can just do something because you like it or you like the way it makes you feel. And there doesn't have to be any profound, outcome. Sometimes it's just like setting aside an hour for yourself to enjoy your day in any way that that works for you. It
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be a goal attached. It can just be joy.
Yeah, definitely.
so
Yeah.
sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say that I mean, yeah, that definitely resonates. There's too many of us that are very, very good at work, good at life, good parents, good whatever the case may be. But they're still making time for themselves and still making time for hobbies. And, the last thing that any of us wants to be is just a robot that, doesn't ever try new things or doesn't ever, take an hour out of their day to do that. And if, I think that kind of that's one of those things that yoga allows you to do. Like if you can't personally take an hour out of that morning because you woke up way before the sun came up, or or that hour before you go to bed, to squeeze in something that's just yours, then you got to make a bigger change, or quit stressing about that thing, whatever the case may be. But yeah, and that applies, like you said, May, to like a bunch of other, way less planned out, I guess less structured things. Like if it's just a hobby, if it's just that extra little bit of painting you wanted to do, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I love it for all those reasons.
Well, I have kind of a silly question, and I ask this a lot, and I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcasts yet, but I have a 12-year-old boy inside of me that has to ask this question. Have you ever, just had any weird like experiences in a yoga class? Either you or someone else did something wildly embarrassing, or we always ask, did you ever fart in class or hear anyone fart in class? And please tell us the story behind it.
I mean, damn well that my mind went right to farting. Yeah. And if it wasn't farting, it was like this morning I was doing this like on it class. And I rolled back or something like that. I like rolled forward, and like my fucking back made a fart noise.
Yes.
And it was like, and I was like, that was so damn loud. That could, everybody is turning like, Lord help that guy. And anyway, no, that's right up there for sure. I don't know if there's like, honestly, like a much more embarrassing part. It could have been. I've definitely, been doing some kind of a standing hold or something like that, and fallen onto somebody. I'm sure I was probably dizzy, but I remember that they were very good sports about it, and like honestly, like almost hugged me on the way back to my mat, and I was like, okay, thank God it wasn't, a little grandma that I just crushed. Yeah. 205 pounds coming down on like 100 pounds, something like that would scare the shit out of somebody probably, in a dark room. But yeah, no, it's something like that. I think the fart still takes the cake.
The lower back sweat fart is the worst, because you're like, no, it wasn't. I didn't do it. It was just my back. And you're like looking around, pointing, you're like, my back did that. And nobody gives a shit. They're like, this guy farted. We're not going to listen to his explanation. It's fine.
Back. It was definitely not his back.
You don't see a single eyeball, but you see all the little thought bubbles above their head.
Yes. Like, where did that come from? Who is the culprit of that disgusting sound?
Bro just shit himself.
I have heard one in class where I was 100% certain that person shit their pants. Like, you could not convince me otherwise. It was not good. I felt like I wasn't even laughing. Like, if I don't laugh at a fart, then something's wrong. And I was genuinely like concerned for that person. So I was
yeah. I mean, you can always just go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you go, Hayden. You go.
I was gonna say, I've always wanted to be like, because nobody's saying a word ever. No, like even the teacher's probably not speaking by the time my back farts. But I've always wanted to be like, I think it came from over there. Like just totally unsolicited. See if I get another snicker or something like that from somebody else in the class. But
that's a May mannerism for sure. Like, do something stupid and then follow it up with something stupider on purpose.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what I was
just to highlight how I've said something stupid. I'm gonna say something even worse right after it to make it all better. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
I think you went that way.
There was a guy next to me the one day who ripped one, and I was certain that everybody thought I had done it. And like, I never comment about farts because you're a teacher. You don't want to like start calling people out. Like, oh, don't worry about it. Hee hee.
Yeah.
Like you just let it go. You don't talk about it. No one talks about the farts. They just happen and we forget about it. And then we talk about them on this podcast instead.
Yeah.
But the one day, this guy, he really like, he let one go and he was right next to me. And I was like, I am positive that half the class probably thought I did that. And I just, I couldn't be like, no, it wasn't me. It was this guy. I just had to let it go. So maybe to this day, these people still thought I'm hooked up to a mic farting in the middle of class.
That was going to be my next question. Were you teaching or practicing next to him? You were teaching next to him.
No, I was teaching, and that was the horrifying part.
Yeah. So you probably were in a position where you could, laugh it off as a back fart.
I could laugh it off as a back fart. That's a new thing.
Yeah.
A back fart.
Yeah.
Created a new
Hashtag.
yoga term. Back fart.
I'm glad to know. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who have heard it. That shit'll echo across the room. But,
like a water.
Here's a question. Have you ever had an instructor or experienced a class that made you feel like disempowered, or the teacher used like language that made you feel uncomfortable? It's always interesting because like this question we usually ask women, but I would like to know, like, as a man practicing in a yoga studio, is there any type of like language that you might hear that would make you feel uncomfortable or like you weren't like belonging?
Not really. I mean, I'm kind of there for, you probably gotten the sense, but like I'm kind of there to work. Like if anybody's ever like, like, let's go. I see y'all working and like doing good. Keep it up. Don't freaking stop. That stuff is totally, fine with me. There's been times where like, I've been the only guy in the class. I don't think that's, too shocking in this space, but, and the language that the teacher was using was like they were talking to, obviously a bunch of girls, and not only that, it seemed like a bunch of, teenage girls, because I was like, you guys are so pretty and your butterfly energy is giving me, rippling feelings of emotion, and I'm like, I'm not feeling any of this shit. I'm trying to get on with the workout. But and I guess that I don't mean that it ruined the entire thing for me by any stretch. I just mean that, if it felt like I was a little bit out of place, I kind of did in that one moment. But but that's it. And I mean, I'll return to the class just fine. I'm not scarred by it or anything.
Yeah.
Didn't even a small part of you leave there feeling like a beautiful butterfly though?
Yeah, duh. She said so.
A little lighter on your toes that day. You were like, I'm a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah,
float right off this ground.
I stood way taller after that. Yeah, no doubt. It was interesting though. I mean, like that's kind of one of those, like, I don't know. I guess can't think of another word besides stigma right now, but of like yoga to a lot of men that you talk to, and then like a lot of them will go to one where I was lucky to go to, and they'll say, "Holy cow, that tested me like nothing else." Like, what's with all the, I don't know, the fluff around it with, why does it seem like it's a women's thing? That's just so strange now, to me and to a lot of the guys that I know that have, had really positive experiences. But yeah, every once in a while you get one where you leave feeling like a butterfly and you're like, I kind of wish I would have just tossed some weights around and, eaten my oatmeal and gone on about my day. But yeah, I don't know. Never felt like I, was not welcome though by any stretch. Because even whenever I was a little butterfly, that lady, welcomed me into class, and like, I'm sure that, was complimentary at multiple points and all that stuff. I think you get some amazing energy from all the teachers that I've had. I was actually kind of like thinking about that this morning, not in prep for this podcast or anything, and not to, inflate y'all at all, but I don't think I've ever had any yoga instructor that could visibly, you could visibly see her bringing her shit into the class. And I was always kind of impressed by that. Like, I mean, surely like one time or two times, like somebody comes in fresh off a shit phone call with, their parents or their boyfriend or whatever. But like, or girlfriend or anyway, and I've like very rarely ever seen them. Like I've, you know, um, there's always plenty of room for you to do your own reflection and not really be distracted by anybody else. And I'm like pretty, I don't know, just a hats off to anybody that's practicing yoga and actually like has figured that out enough to not drag other people into their shit. And really kind of live the motto, I guess. I don't even know if
Do you
that's the
mean
way to
at
put it.
the instructor coming in and not projecting their personal shit on you?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And yeah, it's just impressive because I mean, I would have a hard time with that. Like even just before this class, I went and just like jogged over to the park so I could throw the ball with my dog because I'd gotten off a work call and I was like, I don't want to be still like uptight on the phone with you guys and but not every I mean, yeah, like instructors or whatever that I've been at, I have no idea if they always have that luxury, that 30-minute gap or whatever to clear their head and really get focused and really they're trying to guide everybody through it. But it's impressive that they're actually, able to do the same thing. I mean, from an instructor standpoint. Um, so
Holding
I
space
think
for
when you,
people is hard.
yeah, exactly. Holding space is hard, but when you become a yoga
yeah,
teacher, one of the first things they tell you is that the class isn't ever about you. And if someone can come in and feel your stuff in your class, then you need to take a day off or something because your energy shouldn't be like spilled on to the people around you. Like no matter what, it's the same as you hopping on probably a work call. If you just got off the phone with somebody that's driving you nuts in your personal life and you get on a work call, you're not going to get on that work call and start being a dick to everybody just because you had a bad day. And some
right.
teachers, I mean, some yoga teachers do, but um, the good ones don't. They shouldn't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
anyways. Know better.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is a good comparison. I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. Um, we all want to be stronger than that. Just, after you've done 100 of them and stuff and especially back to backs or whatever the case may be, you're just looking forward to that, to getting home and getting ready for your date or whatever. Like I've never really felt, rushed or like I couldn't focus on exactly what I wanted to focus on. It's been really nice. You might get that from some other, instructors that I've had in other forms of fitness, but I'm sure that they're working on the same thing that a yoga instructor would, be taught, like you're just saying. Um, do not bring that energy in because it's just, yeah, it's going to negatively impact how you teach and and how all your students feel whenever they leave. So yeah, that's kind of goes back to what you said earlier. Like that would probably be one of the only reasons when I would leave with a really negative, feeling like I, was not appreciated by being there or not, um, yeah, not leaving feeling like I had benefited myself. So if I felt like I just annoyed or put off somebody else's night, but
That makes me
like,
so happy about yoga teachers in Oklahoma and Texas that for sounds like the most part, 99% of the time, if not more, they have been able to like set their shit aside in order to offer good experiences because it's so important. And even though most yoga teachers do this as like a side gig, as a passion on top of what they do full time, it's still a job, whether you do it full time or you do it, part time or a few times a week. And so, regardless of kind of like what the comparison that May was saying, regardless of like what it is your job is, you have to show up with a certain demeanor and poise about you to gain the rapport and respect and trust of your students. And ultimately, like the reason that that's important is because you want them to keep coming back. And why do you want them to keep coming back? Because you want them to keep doing yoga because it makes them feel good and it makes them happier. And hopefully they're going to take that with them and it's going to affect the people that they see throughout the rest of their day. And then maybe it'll even trickle beyond, those people. Um, before I want to go back a little bit, but after
yeah,
Tulsa, eventually you moved back to Dallas. So, and that's where you're at now. So can you talk a
yep,
little bit about how your yoga practice looks at this point in time?
yeah. So I was kind of, um, you know, started started doing more heavily like group fitness classes next to my office for a long time, and that was like a CrossFit type thing. There was coworkers that worked out there with me. It was pretty good quality time spent with them and really convenient to work. But every weekend, I would have a new pinch or a new soreness or something like that that I would want to stretch out. So Saturday, or Friday afternoon, if I didn't have anything going on or didn't go to, a class that day, was always kind of the day to go to yoga and like go into the weekend feeling light, feeling like I had just, done some active recovery and, stood a little taller from being hunched over at a desk all week. And I think that's where I was kind of saying, I think it's supplemental to what I'm doing right now more than like primary. But, you know, but I wouldn't want to let it go at all. There's never like a time after any fitness that I do where I feel more kind of like, I guess, comfortable and just like, I don't know, well-rounded, than whenever you've gotten, whenever you're working all the muscles in your body, you're not having focus on whenever you're just, you know, indiscriminately tossing weights around or like hunched over at a desk all day. Like you're not, it's not natural. And I mean, everything that you would do during a yoga class kind of makes up for that in a way. So that's where it's kind of at for me right now. It hasn't been like completely consistent all the way since I moved back to Dallas, but trying to definitely make it that way right now. So if I
And
have my choice.
You and Tyler go to Black Swan, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. So it's sort of like today, or this, currently we're going to Black Swan probably like once a week. Um, shout out. The Black Swan, they also have like some one-off or once a day, probably like kettlebell classes and different functional fitness classes that are all kind of like yoga based, and that there's a very intense, warm-up session for quite a while until you start doing anything that might resemble like strength training, um, and a ton of core, ton of range of motion, that you wouldn't get in the other classes that I do. So that's what me and her are doing once a week, probably, maybe, hopefully more. We're trying to do like Whole30, we talked about that 75 hard bullshit, but it's it's a
Hard.
little bit unreasonable for us right now. Yeah. But I mean, Whole30's been great. We're both definitely feeling way more with it at different, throughout the entire day. There's not as much ups and downs, and because of that, we're a lot more equipped to wake up and do yoga at 8 or 9 on a Saturday, which we definitely wouldn't have 2 months ago or a month ago, even just during the holidays. So that's definitely like kind of how we like to live at the moment. So it's been nice. A long way to go right now. It's only January 10th. I'm speaking like it's been a month, but yeah,
It's got to start
not
somewhere.
quite.
Start somewhere. And
Gotta
it's
start somewhere.
true that you mentioned, because I can't agree more. Like, and I talked to my boss at work about this actually, like, because the past 3 years I've gotten sick in the beginning of the year. So I got COVID on my honeymoon. Which was 3 years ago, or
That's
three
right.
3 years ago, but 3 Januaries ago. So 2 years ago. Last year I got I don't know what it was, but I was sick as soon as I got home from Texas. And then this year I just got really sick. And so I was like, okay, this is officially a pattern. And
Mhm.
I think that, and every year I say like, oh yeah, my body's gonna, tell me when it's tired. And I just keep pushing. And it's like, I know that I'm not alone. I know that I'm not alone when I say this, but it's like the beginning of the year starts and it's like, oh, there's this fresh new opportunity to recalibrate and make better choices. And by better choices, I mean choices that I want to make because they feel good, not necessarily
Yeah,
because they're easy or uh, im- um, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh,
I guess.
that when they happen fast, man, my words
Yeah,
not. Anyway,
they're not instant gratification.
instant. That's the
You know,
simple word I was looking for. Yeah, and so it's like, how can we carry this mentality with us that we've had these first 10 days of the year in a realistic way so that we can stay consistent with it throughout the rest of the year, so that by the time that the end of the year comes, we're not like exhausted and burnt out and annoyed that the holidays are here and yada, 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 yada. And I think that this is not to bash hard 75 hard or whatever, because if that's something that resonates with someone, like I would never want to deter them from doing it. But for me, it's like 75 hard or 365 days
Medium.
manageable, consistent. Yeah.
Medium. Yeah,
Yeah.
no
So,
kidding.
and I think that's what I feel like I'm hearing from you, and I'm definitely feeling that in this year is different in that sense. It's like, how can I can keep this consistency flowing longer than just like, oh, I'm gonna, be really good in January and then have a free for all after that. So,
Yeah,
and I agree, like when you focus on all of the aspects of your well-being, then it makes it easier to show up to every one of those aspects. When you're eating right and drinking the clean water and getting enough sleep, it's easier to wake up on a Saturday and go to yoga. And when you go to yoga on a Saturday and you start your weekend by working out and detoxing, then it's easier when you go out to dinner that night with your spouse to pick a healthier choice, right? Because you already feel amazing. So you just want to keep riding that high. So I
yeah,
love that you brought that up, because I think it's just the facts. It's just the truth that it's all
yeah,
connected, and it's not easy, but it also doesn't have to be so hard. And when you
yeah,
have days where you're like, or vacations, like longer than one day, where you're like, I'm gonna, put all this aside and do whatever I want, then you'll feel the ramifications of that and consequences of that. And hopefully those days and those choices just become fewer and fewer without the like shame and guilt of like, oh crap, I did that. So now everything's ruined. I'm going to keep making these choices that don't make me feel good, that I don't actually want to
yeah.
make, because now I'm stuck in this like seat of guilt. So yeah,
Yeah,
the yoga,
it's
man.
kind of like go yoga. Yeah, the whole like the test of like the whole 30 or the whatever hard 75 is definitely good to an extent, and I guess like um it sounds kind of yoga like, but you just also don't want to punish yourself like that. I think almost the worst thing you can do is to be overly critical with yourself. If a 75 hard, you're supposed to get two workouts in a day. Like, come on. If you don't have time to get a second workout in because you worked your number of work hours, but you told your significant other that you'd finish this at home, and then you also told your buddy that you'd meet up with him for dinner, like, those are all incredibly positive things. You don't have to beat yourself up because you didn't get your second workout in the day. And so that's where like I would obviously just, if any of my friends are hearing about us doing a challenge, like I want to preface it that way
Yeah.
before ever saying that I'm, bashing Tyler because of something that we wanted to, that we accidentally ate, or that or that we ate willingly because it was just like, look, that was what was served to us. Like, we're not
Yeah.
about to throw it down the drain. Like, so that's my little soapbox there. But all those things, hopefully are just, yeah, just kind of fall in that same trend of like, don't take yourself too seriously. Just kind of, you know, if you don't, it'll probably, keep you from having that third or fourth nervous drink, which hopefully might keep the chemicals in your body the next day during your hangover from making you feel like you got to go and just wear yourself out so that you can sleep right, or so that you can rest. And like, will that keep you from also then having a massive, yeah, I guess, yeah, it's just when you, I guess, challenge yourself and don't take too many, don't take a lot of stress into, or don't put a lot of stress into the actions that you're making if they're not perfectly in line with whatever the challenges that you're doing, because that's like that. Yeah, that's all I was saying was the highs and lows that you might experience if you just let yourself go and have another anxious drink or two because you're taking yourself seriously, or you've had a really tough day and you're overanalyzing all that. That extra drink might just make you wake up feeling like I don't have the same drive as I used to, or I'm not spending as much quality time and communication with the person I'm with, or, you know, like a, what I'm really guilty of is if I'm hungover, I want to go and work out harder because it puts my mind at ease. And that's not really that healthy either when you think about it. You should be able to find that place, without, running yourself to death. So, and then, not eating another massive meal to make up for all the hangover munchies or whatever. Um, it's yeah, there's just a lot of peaks and valleys if you kind of start letting those decisions or that anxiety drive those decisions versus trying to kind of keep it a little bit shallower, keep it more in check. So
I like the way you put that.
Me too.
That's like a good visualization, because that's how it feels, is like when you put these really intense limitations on yourself, you are constantly up and down and up and down, and whether or not you are like okay with how you're behaving or you're not okay with how you're behaving. And it turns into this very black and white, punishing yourself or rewarding yourself based on very strict ideas of what your life should look like. And I think overall wellness is like you said, a lot more plateau, soft, just being able to do all of the things that make you feel good and healthy, but recognizing that part of wellness is having a drink with a friend, or, eating one thing that, I don't know, there's a lot of parts of wellness that isn't intensity. It's rest and it's enjoying life. And as long as you are doing all of these beautiful things for yourself every single day, taking those tiny little things that make you enjoy your life a little bit more, but not overdoing it because you feel like you've limited yourself so much, it just kind of makes everything even out. And that's something we've been talking about a lot lately, because I feel like, I don't know if it's like our society or if it's beyond us, but I feel like we all have taken a lot of black and white views on like this intensity of, going out and drinking like one night and then the next day punishing yourself in the gym for 2 hours. It's a lot, and it's hard to keep up. If you can just have a little more grace on yourself, then everything, like you said, gets a little softer.
yeah, there's competition. There's too much competition that really should never be there. And it's a social competition that like it just totally goes unsaid. Like, oh, that guy was out there having so much fun last night, and look at him right now working so hard in the gym. Like he must really have it together. Well, guess what? Like, we know that you're over there because you're dealing with some shit, and you can deal with it on your own time. We can deal with it on our own time too, or we didn't put ourselves in that position. So yeah, I totally agree. Wellness is kind of just being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it without having to, without the inability to focus or lock down for that. But yeah, there's a lot of different forms for sure.
Full circle, because that's what you were saying earlier, right? Like just doing it for the mere sake of the joy behind it and the opportunity to play. And that's what ultimately is going to continue, give you the inspiration to continue to show up for yourself. If you like it, you're going to keep doing it. If it feels
Yeah.
good, you're going to keep doing it. So we have two more questions. One, I suck and forgot to ask this in the beginning, but luckily I remembered now. Hayden Williams, what is your zodiac sign?
My zodiac sign is a Libra. It was right on the verge of Libra and Sag, I think. But yeah, Libra on the last day.
Libra and Scorpio? So, Libra and Scorpio.
Sagittarius, I think.
Well, because Libra and Scorpio touch.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Maybe I'm getting them all mixed up. But yeah, I'm October 22nd. So I guess people can look it up.
Okay. I already know the answer to this, but I don't know the answer. I know your answer. Do you know your big three, your moon? Well, you know your sun. Do you know your moon and your rising sign?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I was like, I know he's gonna say no, but if Hayden Williams is like, yes, I'm a Leo rising and a Virgo moon, I would be like, everybody shut the front door. Well, we'll figure that out one day. Next time.
Real quick, before we peace out, I did want to ask you if you had any advice to give any, men listening that may or may not be interested in trying yoga, and they're like on the fence about it, and they're worried they're going to go in and be a butterfly or be fluffy, what would be your advice to any guy who's like curious about yoga, but is like slightly intimidated by the idea of heading into a studio to do it?
That's a really good question.
Yes.
I think, I mean, I don't really know how to sum it up much better than, just kind of the sobering comment. Just quit taking yourself so seriously. And I'm trying to think about, an example of that, but you don't need to have you don't need to look good. You don't need to look good in a tank top. You don't need to, have your hair combed. You don't need to, shit, you didn't have to brush your teeth. Like just get in there and you're in your own space. You're just you can go in there in a hoodie and a pair of old gym shorts, stand on your mat, and you can, realize that, man, I haven't, done a full squat to my heels in months. Like this is what humans were made to do. This is immediately gratifying. And, if you sit there and you look and you compare yourself to people in the yoga room, you're definitely, if you're the guy that I just described, probably not going to feel immediately comfortable, but that's not the point. And, the point is for, you to just to get comfortable, to understand that, the activity itself and the whole practice is just a practice because you're finding a way to be comfortable. You're not automatically going to be there and be comfortable, but you will work, and and there's no, you're going to push yourself just like you would in any other competitive arena. So it's like that's kind of where it gets fun. You definitely, if you worry too much about it, then you'll probably never, jump in, because it'll just seem like something that is not, your cup of tea. But you can definitely find your own enjoyment in it. So
That's
don't take it too seriously.
Don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, that is the juice.
Juice right out of the juicer.
Yeah. Hope I can help. But
I'm
yeah,
sure you will.
I love this thing that y'all are doing, and just love the full hour to catch up with you guys and get to know you. So thank you so much for the
I
invite.
have to ask you one more question.
Yeah, jump in.
Do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
Man, I I think that, yeah, I think, why not? I think it could change the world. I think there's a whole lot more good than bad that could ever come out of it. And I can't really think about many things that that you could say that about so strongly. So I mean, yeah, like I said, the kind of about just fitness in general. Like you want to have your pod, and you kind of get that with yoga automatically. Why can't that pod be pretty dang big? So, like, I mean, if you can relate to somebody on a lot of the different parts that we just talked about, like why wouldn't that be kind of changing the world one little pod at a time? But let's go for it. I don't know why not.
Hell yeah. More juice, more freshly squeezed juice.
What is the freshly squeezed juice? Because I mean, I sweat a lot, but I don't know.
That's the tagline that we just kind of created. We just say that's the juice. And
That's
so
the juice.
whenever anybody says something, that's the fucking juice.
Yeah.
That's the juice. Good to hear.
Anytime anyone says something, anytime
Yeah.
anyone says something that's the juice, we say
Juicy.
juice. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, juice.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Find
you
your
so
pod
much.
and squeeze the juice.
Yeah, hell yeah. And you were like, even if it's not your cup of tea, just try it. And I was like, speaking of tea, that was the fucking juice. So
Yeah, I'm in for that. Yeah. Well,
thank you for being here and spending a little over an hour with us. We so appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hayden, can you tell everyone your Instagram handle? Not your old Instagram handle, but your new one. I'll tell May your old one off air.
Yeah. My Instagram handle is Hayden_S_Weems, WEEMS. Long story behind that one. My last name is not Weems. But Montana's husband thought that it was for a long time, and he came to that realization, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, thank goodness your last name's not Weems." And I was like,
He's like, Tyler, I was so upset that you were gonna have to be Tyler Weems.
yeah. Yeah, and I was like, shit, I wouldn't be excited to say that, you know. Yeah, future
Even
Mrs.
Tyler, even Tyler's cousin, if I'm not mistaken, I know that she
Yeah.
thought that it was Weems. I think she like signed their engagement card like to the future Mr. and Mrs. Weems, and Tyler was like, Abby, it's Williams, and she was like,
Yeah.
why does it say Weems on Instagram?
I came home and thought that her cousin was just being, you know, being sweet, being funny, and you know, because of the handle, and Tyler was like, no, she really did not know. I was like, oh, I need to change that.
So funny.
But
So yeah,
yeah,
if you like pictures of dogs and adorable
Ooh.
couples, then go follow Hayden. Yeah.
yeah, I need to post a couple more things besides just Tyler and my puppy. But I mean, that's
Post
some pretty
all the
good stuff
puppy
too.
pictures. The puppy pictures are never going to get old, ever.
Never.
Yeah,
And if
true.
anyone tells you otherwise, they have no heart and they don't belong on this earth.
He's curled up right here. Come here, come here,
Hi,
come
Sturgill.
here, come here, buddy. He just woke up.
Sturgill, is that his name?
Yeah, Sturgill Simpson.
Shut up. Oh my God, look at those ears. Floppy ears are, oh, hi.
Just
Oh my
woke up
God.
from a nap, so he's still kind of coming around.
Everyone listening, we will make sure that we post a picture of Sturgill because it would be evil for you guys to listen to this and not be able to put an adorable face to this.
He
man.
looks like a Sturgill. He's got a very fierce, handsome aura about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is, and he just went on a run to the park and chased his ball. So he's like me, you know. You wear him out, and he's like the happiest he can be, and he just lays down for a nap, and you can't really wake him up. But yeah, people are a reflection of their dogs, or vice versa. So anyway,
All right.
yeah,
Well,
definitely post him. He's a lot cuter than me.
we have to. It's not a choice now. It's not up for debate.
Yeah.
Again,
Cool.
thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. It was so nice meeting you.
Yes.
Great to meet you, May. I'll see you guys up there in Pittsburgh sometime.
Cool. See ya.
Bye.